click here. Hi. All right, we'll wait for some people. And go live here. We're setting up all of the different. We've got all the different cameras. Oh shit. Amazing.
It's kind of amazing.
Oh. I've still got music on. There we go. I'm sure that's okay. Good morning, everybody. We're just gonna wait. Should I change the volume on this?
Cool. We're just making sure everything's working.
Nice. Good morning. Awesome. We have some people joining us. We're from wherever. It's still morning here. It's always morning when we do our lives here. Hey, thank you for joining. All right. Well, good. We'll start to get started. Hello. Today we're talking about
Vaginas.
yeah, why not? Vaginas, yonis. We call it the Yoni series, but I think we both say vagina more naturally. I keep saying vagina, even though I know we called it the Yoni series. But yeah, we're talking about what a normal vagina is supposed to look like. Because we actually got this question on Instagram. I thought it was fantastic. We had a private message on Instagram and they asked like, oh, I've been talking with my girlfriends and we were just really curious, what is our yoni supposed to look like? What is normal? Because we're just not 100% sure, and there's like a lot of insecurity around that. And I was like, what a perfect question, because I think that is something that a lot of us have maybe wondered or talked about, and maybe you've talked about it with girlfriends, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So one, what a normal vagina looks like, or is supposed to look like. We're going to talk a little bit about the anatomy of the vagina, and we're going to talk about labiaplasty. Because that is actually the number one growing cosmetic surgery right now in North America is labiaplasty. It's like crazy on the rise. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then some resources for you. We have some great Yoni resources for you if you want to see a whole bunch of vaginas, which who doesn't?
Some of you already commented saying that you want to see some, so we can give you resources.
We're not going to show you ours.
We're not going to show you ours.
But not that they're not beautiful and we're proud of them, of course, and we're not going to show them to you because we'd get kicked off of all of these mediums right now. YouTube would not allow it. And also, I don't want to show my vagina on the internet, but it's anyways. But we'll give you resources if you do want to look at lots of vaginas. Natural, amazing, beautiful yonis. So yeah, okay, so right off the bat, what does a normal vagina look like? Normal or supposed to look like. So I would say the most normal thing when it comes to a yoni is that if you look at yonis that you see on TV or in porn, not usually TV, but porn or on the internet, or even the person beside you, any yoni you see, if your yoni looks different than that, that is normal. That is super normal. It is supposed to look different. It's like a fingerprint. Every single yoni is different and unique and beautiful in its own regard. It can vary in color and shape and flavor and texture and smell. All of that is normal. If your vagina looks different than other vaginas that you've seen, right on. That's great. It's supposed to look like whatever it looks like. When I was doing research for this live, I found a quote and I was like, oh, it's perfect. But it says, the beauty, or yonis are like ice cream. The beauty is in the variation, and it's very difficult to go wrong. So the more variety, the better. The more different yonis that we have on the universe, the better. They're supposed to look different and fantastic and beautiful. Anything about that?
Yeah.
And by beautiful, I mean they just look beautiful in their own right. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. I like how Kendra mentioned that yonis are like fingerprints. No two are alike, and they are not supposed to be alike because they're all different. So, Kendra brought up a really interesting point before we started this live about how a lot of people are getting cosmetic surgery to look the same. But where did this same ideal come from? It's something that we've created. So people are all getting Botox at similar places and lots of surgeries, and you scroll through your Instagram and it's like, wow, all of these people look the same. But where's the fun in that? And who decided that this is what we want to look like anyways? The same rule kind of applies for vaginas and getting labiaplasty. Is where does this vagina ideal come from? Because This is based
One.
off of one vagina, which is actually the minority. So why are we choosing this one as our sort of base model for a vagina? And who decided that it's the best anyways?
Mm-hmm. I saw a question up on YouTube. Somebody said, is it normal for like the lips to be sort of wrinkly? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Super cool. So maybe we'll actually talk a bit about that now, just sort of general anatomy and then variations that we typically see in vaginas. So I think most of the insecurity comes from the labia minora, which is the inner lips. So we have like the outer lips, which are there for protection. They have all the pubic hair on them. And inside you have the clitoris at the top, and then the inner lips, which kind of frame so lovely the vaginal opening. So the inner lips, they can be like any variety of like color and shape and like flavor, like, and by that I just mean they have their own flair. So lots are like long and thin, and it seems like very like two distinct lips. Others are like frilly and a little bit more like, yeah, like wrinkly, or they have more folds. They have different intricacies to them. There's one in a resource. We have a book of labia that we're going to talk about later, but there's one, it looks like it's almost like a spiral. It's fantastic. I actually don't even know how it's possible, but it looks like this amazing, like awesome spiral. And so colors. So I remember the first time that I realized that people cared about what your yoni looked like. I was in high school, and I had a friend who was dating this guy who was telling her about these ugly vaginas that he had seen, and how there was this vagina that he had seen that he didn't like because it was like pink, but then it had brown, a little bit of brown on like the edges of like the lips. And she was so insecure about this. She's like, I didn't even know that guys cared about this. Like, what is our vagina supposed to look like? And I was like, I don't know. And we had this big talk, and we talked about what color our vaginas were, and we're like, is yours pink? Mine's pink. What color of pink? What does it look like? And so we started to worry about all this. And honestly, like the color absolutely, like most are, I shouldn't even say most. Pink is like a fleshy color. So it's like pink, dark pink, light pink. Some are very, very pale, brown, black, and very like combinations of those tones. Some of my like the favorite vaginas that I've seen, they have like really like light clitorises, and then like dark like frilly lips, or like really dark like clitorises and then really light lips. And so there can be a huge variation in color. The color also changes when we're aroused. An aroused vagina tends to have way more, it does have way more blood in it. So it tends to be really deep and like ruby red, and like, or just more like lush and rich. Whatever color it is, it tends to like deepen in tone, whether it's like purple or brown or black or red or pink. All of these are fantastic yoni colors and variations to be having. So that's, so that would be for color. And I think I talked about inner lips. And and a big thing, so I think also with labiaplasty, which we'll talk about in a minute, one of the biggest things women are doing is they're making the inner labia smaller. So they think they're too long. I would say of the majority of all of the yonis that I've seen, and I've looked at so many because I love looking, like that sounds so weird, but I love looking at them. Natural ones, like not in pornography, not ones that are like made for TV, made for internet, ones that are just like natural vaginas, like art and photography. Majority of them, when a woman is standing like just facing dead on and her feet are right underneath her hips, you can usually see some of the inner lips. So there's like the two outer lips, and then there's often like this little crest in the middle where you can see the inner lips. So it's normal for them to have them protrude out, and it is also normal for them even to hang down. They say up to 2 inches is usually of like lips hanging down and actually out of the outer lips is totally normal. And I mean, even longer than that is normal, but say sometimes if it becomes longer than 2 inches, there can be like pain and chafing, and that's when it actually might be good to consider a labiaplasty. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it would only be for like pain reasons or like lifestyle reasons, as opposed to like cosmetic reasons for making any changes down there. But inner lips that hang low, totally normal, and totally like among like even the majority, you can usually see the inner lips. And some of them are all tucked right in and folded in, so that if a woman is standing forward, all you see is just like a line and then like the 2 outside lips coming together. So all of that is great.
Mhm.
But yeah.
And that is the vagina as a whole. Like, not just what Kendra's describing when you're looking straight on. That's like the whole vagina. It's not just like the vulva or the labia, right? That's what you're talking about.
What do you mean? Well, the vagina is the vaginal canal, right?
Yeah.
We're mostly talking, I think labiaplasty, it is like the vulva is all everything you see on the outside.
Yes.
And all the labia. And then your vagina is the actual hole and up and in.
Yes.
So what are you saying?
When you're describing looking at a woman.
Looking. Oh, like that. Like that would just be like if I'm standing here, like if you're just like looking at me when I'm just standing like in a neutral stance.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really be able to see up into my
Yeah.
vagina, but you'd be able to see like just like it's more your vulva or your labia or how they sit.
Yes.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to share your story? I was going to say in terms of insecurity. So I was going to say, well, we can talk a little bit about labiaplasty. I already started to go in on that, but I think the big vulva is sexy as it is. Vulvas are very sexy. Yes. Thank you for saying that. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess going back to sort of the first time I ever looked at my own vagina and I took a mirror and I kind of checked it out. I think that's something that it's very important that actually everybody does that. I've talked to a lot of women or people who do have vaginas who have never actually looked at their own. So when I was 18 or 19, I think is around the time that I did it, and I was in a relationship and I was dating someone who told me that their ex-girlfriend had a vagina that resembled a sloppy Joe. I had no idea what this meant. I didn't really know what labia was or what the labia were. And so I was like, how could one have a vagina that resembled a sloppy Joe? A, asshole for saying that. I can't believe I dated him. And B, so I was just really curious. So I wanted to check it out. So I grabbed a mirror and I looked at my own vagina. And I honestly once I looked, I could not look away. I was super, super fascinated with how it looked. And I was standing at different angles. I was trying to look like up my vagina and I wanted to see everything. I was super, super curious. And you definitely learn a lot about yourself when you do this and you experiment with this. But the really cool thing is I had no idea what anyone else's vagina looked like. So I just learned to love my own the way that I saw it. And I personally never really struggled with insecurities when it comes to the way that with my vagina, but I feel like I was lucky enough to connect with it really early on in this sort of way before social media and all of this stuff happened, where now we have this ideal, I guess, like we were talking about. So that's sort of my experience with it.
Yeah. And I'd say it is like really normal to also be insecure, like with social media and with porn. And that's why I think labiaplasty is crazy on the rise. I found a stat, the number of labiaplasties went up like 40% between 2015-16, and it's only been rising since then. So there's like so much insecurity around this, and I think it's normal to be a little insecure. It's normal that we would like look and compare, and now that we have all this access to looking at other people's vulvas on the internet, that's what we're going to compare ourselves to. So, and I would argue that like insecurity, like it's so much more about how you think and how you feel about yourself than what you actually look like. And that's like, I would say that goes for any part of your body, so you can, like Sarah had said right before we started this, she's like, well, maybe you should share that thought, but like, even if you get a labiaplasty, like tell them what you were telling me, because I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. So often when we were actually at the Taboo show, we were parked next to surgeons who were offering cosmetic.
It would like use a laser to tighten your vagina and make it like tight and tucked up.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. We were parked next to these surgeons that were offering some sort of like vaginal enhancing surgery. And so the topic of labiaplasty, if you struggle with insecurity with your vagina and the way that your vagina looks, getting labiaplasty could be a short-term solution. But I believe that if you're an insecure person, after you have the labiaplasty, there's going to be something else that you're going to find to be insecure about, because insecurity is often, it's a mental thing. So it's not usually something that's physically wrong with your body. And we all do have our things that we are a little bit insecure about. But I don't believe that labiaplasty will fix the problem, because like Kendra mentioned at the beginning of this video, every single vagina is different and they're all meant to look different and no two are alike. So making your vagina look more like somebody else's vagina, I don't think is a solution to that problem. And definitely there's more internal work and healing that could be done rather than the cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And like if you get a labiaplasty to fix this one part of your body that you don't like, usually you just start focusing on something else.
Mhm.
Like insecurity is a state of mental wellness, and like confidence is recognizing Esther Perel. Oh, she's brilliant. And she has this lovely quote about confidence. And she's like, confidence is the ability to see yourself as flawed and still hold yourself in high regard. It's an action item. And Mel Robbins is a life coach, and she says that confidence is an action item. It's not a state of like, it's not what you look like. It's not what you have. It is not material. Confidence is your ability to take action and act on the world and come forward the way you want to, in spite of things that you think are not perfect about yourself. Confidence is not, okay, once I'm perfect, I can come forward and be sexual and magnetic and all these amazing things. Confidence is being like, I am not perfect and I don't love everything about myself, but like I'm still worthy and I'm still amazing and I am still, I can still hold myself in really high regard.
Mhm.
And like that's confidence in general about like your whole body, but also definitely it's the same when it comes to your yoni. So labiaplasty. Just one thing I do want to say about that, like the reason labiaplasty was invented is well, actually I shouldn't say was invented, but there is like an actual medical reason that some women do need labiaplasty. Sometimes, again, if the inner labia are more than 2 inches longer, sometimes it can chafe and rub on underwear and bathing suits and activewear, and it causes like scarring or adhesions or like scabs and things. And so it can actually cause a lot of pain. Also during sex, sometimes they can get tucked up into the vagina and it can cause a lot of pain. So labiaplasty for these individuals, there is a place for it, like a very functional use for it that would help to improve somebody's sex life and even lifestyle in being able to wear certain clothing. Where I sort of take issue with labiaplasty is that it's become it's much more cosmetic, and I would say the majority of labiaplasties done today are for cosmetic reasons. Like we said, if you do want to get it, I mean, of course it's your yoni and you do what you think is best for you. And I would say the best thing that you can do before making a decision like that is really looking at so many other yonis and normalizing the uniqueness and the variation that there is. Like for me, that's like I had some insecurities. I had more insecurities about my boobs. I was always worried that my boobs were weird or that my nipples were weird, and that I was just like, so I'd always look up boobs because I'd be like, I want to make sure my boobs are okay. And I wasn't so much about my vulva, but the more vulvas I look at, the more I feel like so amazing and happy with mine, and like the relationship with mine just gets stronger because I'm like, she's so great. She's this little jewel and she looks so perfect and I love her and I love the way she smells and looks and all these different things. So we'll share some resources with you. In terms of, like I keep saying, look at other people's yonis, but it's hard to do because most of the yonis that are easily available for us to look at are in porn and are in these, like we have like the cookie cutter pussy of like, this is what it's supposed to be. And like, honestly, that's just vanilla. And vanilla is a yummy flavor, but we can't, if everyone's vanilla all the time, it's like really boring as hell.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, Kim Anami, I love her work. And she was doing a podcast where she talked about how on Instagram now there's this Instagram face where she's like, everyone's faces are starting to look the same. Like we're starting to lose our unique beauty because we all get the lip injections and like the contouring and the fake eyelashes and the like so much makeup that like we all have this Insta face and then we have the filter. And so she's like, people are starting to look kind of like creepy, weird, and all the same. Labiaplasty, it's like, it's the same thing, but for your vagina. It's like we're having like these like creepy, manufactured, fake looking vaginas that can interfere with sensitivity. Getting a labiaplasty is basically saying like what other people think of me and what I look like is more important than my own pleasure and the health of my body. Because any surgery is interpreted by the body as a threat. Because even if you're under anesthetic and you can't feel it, your body's still like you're being cut into, and your body interprets that as a threat. And so it does stuff like you get different like hormones released in your body, there's more cortisol, and also your body puts up protection against it. So the scarring from labiaplasty is actually not too intense, but you still do get scar tissue, which can create fascial adhesions, which can create tightness and pain in the pelvic floor. Also, if you've cut into your yoni, your body is going to naturally like put up like barriers against that, and it will have like resistance. It might create more numbness or more pain, and so sexual experiences can be compromised for the physical appearance of your yoni, which I think is kind of like not okay, or kind of sad. I actually think it's sad. I went on a tangent. You can't even see the name of this book, but this is my absolute favorite resource. It is called I'll Show You Mine. I love this. It has over 100 pictures, colored pictures of women's yonis, and a little write-up of their yoni story. I cannot actually show them to you because we'd get kicked off of Instagram and YouTube and all of those things, but I'll show you mine. It's amazing, and you get to hear the story about like the relationship they have with their yoni and what they thought about their yoni and what they've heard about their yoni and how they've come to love and accept their yoni, or pieces of it that they're still struggling to accept. There's yonis with piercings. There's yonis from all different ethnic groups. There's yonis that are natural, and there's like biological, and there's yonis that are like post-operative, and transgendered yonis. And there's just such a huge variety of, you can see all the different ways that yonis can exist. They do a picture like of the woman like standing, just like you don't see their face. It's just the front version, and then like kind of a spread eagle version. So you get to see her standing, and then like the inside, and you get to see all those variations. This is the book that has the one that I said where it has inner labia that are like in kind of a cool like spiral, and I'm just like, I don't even know how that's possible, but it's amazing. One of my favorite yonis in here looks like a flower. It's like really, really, really pale and like crazy curly, and it like blossoms out of like the like outer lips, and like the inner lips are so much bigger, but it looks like this, like it looks like a flower. I'm just like, this yoni is so cool. So I love this resource, and I have it on my coffee table, and yeah. Oh, it's printed in Canada.
Yeah.
Go Canada. I love Canada. So it's great. So this is one of my favorite ones. Some of the other ones that we have, if you want to follow on Instagram, I follow something called the Vulva Gallery. It's the.vulva.gallery. And it is cartoon portraits of real vulvas. So it's able to be on Instagram because they're not actual pictures of vulvas, but they show the likeness of a real vulva, and you see huge variation. And then there's also usually a little story of the woman's whose vulva it is, and everything like that. And they have some that are like period vulvas, and they have like, again, all different ethnic groups and different like colors and shades and lips and everything. And and that's something you can follow on Instagram. And then the final one I'll let you know about is the Great Wall of Vagina. So the Great Wall of Vagina, fantastic. It's in the UK, and it's an actual art display. And it's this, I believe it was a gentleman who did 400 or more plaster casts of women's vulvas. I don't even know how that would happen, but I think I would enjoy it if it happened to me. But I would so they made plaster casts of these vulvas, and then they put them up like in this huge display. And there's also a store now, there's a book now, and it just shows the variation. It shows how different they can all be. And it really just helps to normalize, I think, your own by seeing like how many like that, like they really are unique. They really are all beautiful and cool and amazing in their own way. So yeah, so the Great Wall of Vagina, you can just Google that, and or you can buy the book. I'll Show You Mine, which is my favorite book, and the Vulva Gallery on and there's also the Vagina Museum on that I follow on Instagram, which is, it actually has some pictures, sometimes like real pictures. I don't know how they get away with that, but that's like amazing. So yeah, those would be my 3 recommended resources for looking at vulvas and normalizing your own, and just really learning to love and appreciate the beauty of all the different types of vulvas that exist, and all their shapes and forms and sizes and colors and everything like that. But yeah, did you see any questions? Like, I haven't been watching the questions. Was there anything that came up, or anything that you want to add?
I think the one I saw earlier that I was trying to say was like the difference between vulva and vagina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we already said, but like the vagina is like your vaginal canal. The vagina is actually like the hole. It's like the birth canal and the actual like part that's internal, whereas your vulva is all the external pieces. So that includes the labia, like the labia minora, the labia majora, which is your inner and outer lips, the clitoris, and your urethra is also, well, it's a hole, but it's on like the outside. Mm-hmm. So
oftentimes when people refer to the vagina is kind of like a referral to all of these things, even though it could technically be like anatomically incorrect.
Yeah. We're talking about vaginas. I do mean like I'm really more saying vulva. We're not being anatomically correct, but that's what I mean.
Yes.
This is something about smell. Smell also unique and totally awesome. I think I really like the way that my vagina smells. I remember growing up being like, my vagina smells awesome, but kind of weird. Like it reminded me of growing up. I also like the smell of gasoline and like glue. And they'd be those weird things where it's like, these smell kind of weird, but like I want to keep smelling them. And it was the same thing with my vagina. I remember being a little kid, like I was like 8, and I was like, my vagina smells kind of like different, but like I want to keep smelling it. I think it's cool. So it reminded me, it wasn't quite as potent as gasoline, but I think
that's interesting to kind of mention though, because like if you do sort of check out your own vagina and you figure out what it smells like on a regular basis, that's another really good way to connect with it, because through that smell you'll know when something's not right, or maybe you have like an infection or a yeast overgrowth and stuff. So everyone does have their own unique smell.
And it changes a bit with your monthly cycle. Like it definitely, sorry, just everyone on our phones. But the smell changes, I notice with my cycle. Like there's like, I can almost tell when my period's coming or when I'm ovulating, because like my vagina just smells different. I'm like, oh, there she is. But it's always like there's subtle differences, but it usually maintains a pretty consistent smell. And yes, like Sarah said, if there's something that's really, really very different in terms of appearance or smell in comparison to what your normal is, that's when you would want to go and see a doctor or maybe just get something checked out. I remember I had a friend one time who's like, my vagina smells like stronger than normal. She had her legs crossed. She was wearing jeans. Then she uncrossed her legs and she's like, I can smell it like through my jeans, and that's never happened before. And I was like, you should probably go to the doctor. And it was a good idea that she did. Sorry.
And that's like, it's good that Kendra said what your normal is. That's why it's good to go and take a look at your vagina, because everyone's does look different. So it's important to get familiar with what yours looks like. So if there's something there that might not be there, or something maybe looks a little bit swollen or discolored, it's good for you to be able to point that out.
Yeah.
To go to the doctor. So I'm just trying to go through some of these questions.
It's like doing a breast exam. You're always supposed to examine your breasts, and then when something feels different, that's when you go to your doctor. Same with your vulva. Examine your vulva, because you can't really know if something's abnormal for you if you don't know what your baseline normal is. But yeah,
I suppose it's...
Sarah's just looking through questions. And then anything else?
What is your... most of these questions are inappropriate, and we're not going to answer them.
Okay, most of them are inappropriate. But if you do have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments. This is going to be, we have it on like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube right now. It's going to be posted up on YouTube. And I guess it stays on Facebook too. But if you have any other questions, you can leave them. We're going to also attach those resources that I told you about, the books and the Great Wall of Vagina and everything up there for you to take a look at. If you want to research this more. But yeah, seriously, just look at yonis, look at them. And the more you look at them, the more you'll realize how like unique and amazing and how normal your is, simply because it's different than all of the other yonis.
Yes. I do like this one comment. Women teaching other women how to feel how beautiful they are. And that is ultimately like our goal with Eat Squat Come, and our goal with just holistic sexual empowerment is just for everyone to find parts of themselves that they love and they can appreciate. And because everyone is beautiful in their own way, and every vagina is beautiful in its own way. So if we can sort of drop that comparison and appreciate ourselves for who we are and how we are, then honestly, like, we can change the world with that.
Yeah.
Bouquet of vulvas.
And if somebody does say, like, both Sarah and I shared a story where like we heard from a teenage boy, really, that like, there were ugly vaginas or vaginas that were not something that like you should be proud to have. And ultimately, if you're with somebody who says that your vagina or your vulva is ugly, or that they don't want to have sex with you if it doesn't look a certain way, that's not the relationship like that you want to be in. That's not the person that you want to be with. If you are in a loving relationship where you think that you're safe and you are connected with somebody, you trust somebody, and you truly, you know, love this person and they love you, like that, none of that is going to matter. Like what your yoni looks like is not going to matter. And hopefully they will think it is nothing but beautiful, regardless of what it looks like. And if you have anybody shaming your vulva or your vagina, you can tell them to like take a hike, like hit the road. That's not the person that you want to be with. I think like, oh, that would piss me right off. Like if anybody ever, like, it's not okay. It's not okay. And those aren't those people are super insecure and like, I'd say ignorant, just like ignorant and insecure. If you are commenting on what it, like an ugly, if you say ugly yoni, like seriously, go to hell.
So 2 questions. Yoni, have you heard of yoni breathing? And do our yonis change in appearance on our periods?
They definitely change in smell on period. Actually, and I can only really speak to my own experience. And they can often darken in hue. I should say that as well, because there's just more blood flow. There's more blood in the area, and your yoni is working really hard. You know, your period is a time when your body's going through a lot, and so it's normal that there would just be more blood flow. There we go. Everybody always asks you to flex. I love it. During your period, so yeah, it can change a little bit. They're usually very slight changes, like with your cycle, like the way that it looks and smells. That's all like normal to have slight changes. And it would just be major changes happen at puberty and then often post, like during and post childbirth. And so other than that, those 2 experiences in your, and I imagine that it would also go through some bigger changes in menopause, but I actually haven't done my research on that, so I shouldn't say. But on like the day-to-day and between puberty and childbirth and menopause, like the day-to-day, there should be like little variations in like color, hue, and smell, but like nothing huge.
I would also like to say too, I know this is kind of going to turning into a long live, but it will change in appearance too after orgasm.
Oh yeah.
So
because it's so plump, just gets like plump and
so Kendra
swollen.
has a really cool video on our channel called Mirror Masturbation, and how it's a really cool deep-rooted self-love practice. And I don't know if you have ever tried it. I've actually done it like twice in the last week because it's so awesome. And if you actually look at your vulva after orgasm, and you can see sort of the way it changes in the color and the texture and the size and
taste, you can taste it
and the
too.
way like, yeah, always changing.
Always changing.
Increase that blood flow.
Yes.
But yeah, so you should check out Kendra's video if you haven't already on mirror masturbation. And if it's something that kind of freaks you out just by the sound of mirror masturbation, maybe dive into that a little bit and ask why that is something that is a little bit limiting for you.
And yoni breathing, I haven't heard specifically of yoni breathing. I've heard of like womb breathing or pelvic floor breathing and things like that. I imagine it's some sort of breathing into your yoni and inviting like life and blood flow down there. I think that's amazing. Anytime that we can, breathing is the best. And the more that we can breathe, the deeper we can breathe, the more we can breathe into those sexual pieces of ourselves that are often ignored and numbed out and ignored, that's good, and shamed. The more we can breathe life into those, the better I think it is. It really helps you to connect with your body and love your body and improve the relationship that you have with yourself. So if that's not what yoni breathing is, and I'm completely off with that, just leave us a note because I'd love to learn more about it. But yeah, breathing into your sexy bits and pieces is aces. Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool.
We should probably wrap it up because we're going long.
So this is a fun conversation.
Yeah.
If you guys have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. We do our best to go through the comments of our most recent videos and live. So if you want to contribute to the conversation, drop them in the comments below. We will, in the description, when we go through and edit this on YouTube, maybe on Facebook too, we'll add in the details for this book and some of the other stuff that we mentioned throughout this live chat. And we hope that you enjoyed it. And it's kind of like a vulnerable topic, but if you sat through it, good for you. And we encourage you to sort of do your own homework after this video and discover your yoni a little bit more or a little bit better.
Yes. It's great. I love this topic. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. And we have what's the video on Friday? I don't even remember what we're doing. It might be. It doesn't matter.
We have a video coming out on Friday at 12.
Yeah, and we have an awesome series coming up about how to up your sexy, up how you're feeling sexy, and up your level of sexy. And that's not about getting labiaplasty. It's about stuff going on up here.
Yeah.
Anyways. And having more orgasms because they're like really great for your biochemical like makeup. All right. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye.
All right. Let's end.
End video.